Namaskar. Shri Krishna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita talks about four different forms of yoga. These are Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. If we oversimplify the summary, we can say that yoga is a path that leads to enlightenment, that leads to mukti or being one with Ishwar. I will be discussing about various forms of yoga in future videos in this channel. But in this video, I will be starting with Bhakti Yoga. The reason why I chose Bhakti Yoga first is primarily because Sri Krishna calls Bhakti Yoga the highest form of yoga out of all four. And not just Sri Krishna, many saints in various scriptures have said that not just Bhakti Yoga is the highest, but also other forms of yoga are incomplete without a little bit of bhakti in it. So, what is Bhakti Yoga? Out of 96 assigned vocabulary for love in Sanskrit language, Bhakti ranks the highest. Bhakti is the most pure, most selfless form of love towards divinity, towards Ishwar, the Supreme Consciousness itself. The love for Ishwar, not for the sake of some wish fulfillment or for some protection, but for love itself. The complete samarpan, that is dedication of one's entire existence at the feet of Ishwar. I will explain the meaning of this word samarpan, dedication, further in this video. But you might think, how does this seemingly simple concept of true love rank higher above other kinds of yogas which are seemingly so difficult? Like Dhyana Yoga, in which a person often leaves his house, goes to the mountains or caves, meditates and does different forms of Kriya Yoga to finally be enlightened, to be one with the Supreme Consciousness. Or be higher than Jnana Yoga, in which a yogi studies, realizes, and then finally gets enlightened by the various scriptures such as 108 Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, different Vedas. A Gyan Yogi analyzes the scriptures and tries to realize the supreme consciousness all these scriptures are pointing towards. Then why is it that Sri Krishna and almost all saints put Bhakti Yoga above these seemingly difficult paths of yoga? After all, on the surface, Bhakti is true love and it seems quite straightforward, right? Why is it higher than these forms of yoga? Well, there is a technical answer to it. You see, for entering and for walking on any path of yoga, there is a minimum job requirement. The job requirement, the minimum passing level marks, is actually a clean Sukshma Sharir, a purified Sukshma Sharir. Sukshma Sharir comprises of mind, intelligence, and ego. Technically, the Sukshma Sharir or subtle body consists of the Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya Kosha. I have talked about the Panchakosha in detail in my Law of Karma video. But what a clean Sukshma Sharir, that is mind, intelligence and ego, means is that a person is free from negative qualities like lust, uncontrolled anger, greed, jealousy, etc. But it is not easy to cleanse our mind on our own, with our own discipline. Especially in this age, most people won't even have the motivation to clean our own minds and intelligence. Why would we want to do it? The society is not this way. Hence, entering any other path of yoga becomes difficult. But in Bhakti Yoga, there is something truly remarkable. That is, in the heart, when true love for Ishwar starts developing, the mind, ego, and intelligence start cleaning on themselves. Swami Sarvapriyananda gives an interesting example. That is, if you give a small place in your house to a saint, an actual great saint, then before you know it, your entire house will be an ashram. Because slowly there will be Gyan Sabhas being held in your house, there will be satsang in your house, because you give that small place to a great saint. Before you know it, your entire house will be an ashram. Similarly, when Ishwar takes a place in your heart, all the negative qualities start shunning away by itself, automatically. The same negative qualities which other yogis have to fight by themselves, not just for starting on the path of yoga, but throughout the path of yoga. Although this kind of purification only happens in the case of pure love, the kind of love that Mirabai had for Sri Krishna, that Swami Ramakrishna Paramhans had for Ma Kali, that Goswami Tulsidas had for Sri Ramchandra. If you're thinking that I don't have that sort of natural love for Ishwar that Mirabai had for Sri Krishna, then is Bhakti Yoga not for me? No, it actually is. Bhakti Yoga and starting on Bhakti Yoga is fairly easy for anyone. I would come to that part further in this video. But first, I would like to give some more logical explanations as to why Bhakti is ranked the highest. This next logic can be understood by the statement of Swami Ramakrishna Paramhans. All of Veda and Vedanta, I have got it all from my mother, that is Ma Kali. Here Swami Ramakrishna Paramhansa is stressing on the fact that when you love Ma Adi Shakti or Supreme Consciousness in any form, she comes to you as a mother and as a guru, who shows you the path when you can walk and carries you in her lap when you can't. Lalita Sahasranamam calls Ma Adi Shakti as Guru Murthy. Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita and Ma Adi Shakti in Devi Gita both have spoken the same words. Those who love me, I guide them myself. Yes, with something as seemingly simple as true love, Ishwar himself becomes your guru and teaches you all forms of yoga experientially. Although this should not be taken as a pass to not read any of our scriptures. For this happens to great yogis who are deeply in love with Ishwar. Reading of various scriptures like Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Devi Bhagavatam, etc. are essential even in the path of Bhakti Yoga to develop that love for Ishwar and for that purity of mind to even want to walk to Ishwar. Reading scriptures is essential for all parts of yoga. There is another reason for the greatness of Bhakti Yoga, and this reason actually comes from Gyan Yoga. Therefore, this explanation is subtle and hard to understand for many. It is said that ego, the sense of I, comes from desires in the mind. Enlightenment is when this sense of I or ego vanishes, and hence only the divinity which is present in our heart remains. Different paths of yoga have different methods for eradication of this sense of I. But a bhakta need not even know about this concept, because a bhakta has actually truly dedicated his all to Ishwar. He gives his mind, intelligence, ego, entire sansar, his Atman to the feet of Ishwar. Hence, he accepts all that comes to him as the will of God himself. Therefore, the basic desire in mind is eradicated, which in higher state eradicates the sense of I, which liberates us from Maya. But it is not that a bhakta does nothing and leaves everything to God. A bhakta does his dharma, his responsibilities, in fact as a service to God. Every single karma, every single dharma that a bhakta has in relation to his humanity, in relation to his country, in relation to his society, in relation to his individuality, all of his dharma a bhakta does as a service to God. And this forms the basis of Karma Yoga. This bhakti and Karma Yoga leads a person straight to enlightenment, straight to Ishwar. That is why, if you naturally have bhakti for Ishwar in your heart, know that it is one of the greatest blessings of God. There are many such stories in our scriptures in which when sages have sakshatkar with Ishwar, they ask from Ishwar bhakti itself. Some bhakta even place bhakti over mukti and explain it in this one beautiful statement, that it is much sweeter to taste the sugar than to be sugar. That is, when a person attains mukti, he is one with Ishwar. But when he is bhakta, he gets to experience the sweetness, the leela of Ishwar. Now, what if you don't have that natural, pure kind of love for Ishwar and you still want to walk on the path of Bhakti Yoga? It's not difficult. First of all, you want to, that's a great step. Secondly, it is not very difficult to instill the love of God in our hearts. Because we love so many things in our lives which are non permanent and which don't give us bliss. But Ishwar is infinitely blissful and is permanent. Of course, it's not hard. So, how do we instill bhakti in our hearts? It's a simple solution given by saints. Just as in your heart you have places for many relationships, your mother, father, child, your cow, your dog, etc. All these things, add one more relation for Ishwar. Not as someone who lives way beyond your reach and someone who is almighty and far, far beyond. No, add this relationship of Ishwar, the Satchidananda, as someone close to you, like my mother Ma Bhavani, my father Mahadev, my best friend Sri Rama or Sri Krishna, my brother Sri Ganesha. This way, you will add that one relationship, that one sweetness in your heart for Ishwar. The Ishwar remains same, but now that Ishwar, you have brought it from this high almighty chair to somewhere close in your heart. And when you naturally start loving them as that relationship, automatically you would want to read about them. You would want to talk to them. You would want to love them. You would want to know about them and know about the knowledge and the words they spoke. This would lead you into the threefold practices of Gyan Yoga: Smaran, Manan, and Nididhyasanam. Reading the scriptures, thinking about the scriptures, and interpreting and realizing the meaning of their scriptures. Now, what happens when that relationship solidifies in your heart? Now, the example of that saint comes again. This is actually where Swami Sarvapriyananda originally gave this example. That when you give a little place to a saint in your house, an actual great yogi in your house, before you know it, slowly your entire house will turn into his ashram. Similarly, even if you give a small place in your heart to Ishwar, like a tiny relationship, still, before you know it, your heart would be his temple, your mind will be his satsang, your intelligence will be his scriptures, and your ego will be his lover. I would like to conclude with this great composition by Sri Adi Shankaracharya on verse 27 of Saundarya Lahari, which not just explains Bhakti Yoga but also guides us into Karma Yoga, which will be my next subject. O Divine Mother, may my utterances be your chant. May the movements of my hand be the mudras of your worship. May my wanderings be parikrama around you. May my eating and breathing be your offerings. May my lying down be your prostrations. And in the sense of surrendering my very own self unto you, may all the pleasures I enjoy in life be offerings in your service. Namaskar.